Kyosho Quad Rider, nitro powered ATV with chain drive. Nitro quarter scale ATV. Nothing really like this on the market. This particular one is a special, very original, good condition one with the box. We will be taking a look at the features, the specs, going over a couple of the things that this thing needs to be done for it to actually run. But I think this is probably the only chance most of us will ever have to get close with something like this. Today, the YouTube world has just gone in a trajectory of how far could I jump in Arma? You know what? I don't care about that. What I care about is a sickening vintage nitro quarter scale ATV. Before we dig in to what makes this a classic collectible nitro, and yes, you are looking at a nitro engine right under the rider. Very rare and very exciting. Oh, you want me to talk about that swing arm chain drive, don't you? We will, guys, don't worry. I had to do a lot of digging online. There really are no original promotional videos for this particular model, but some people have posted in forums over the years. But once again, that information is over 10 years old now. Let's take a look at what the box has to say. This is a quarter scale Quad Rider. It does come with the .12 Kyosho high power engine with pull starter. Actually, .12 was not bad because I know several Kyoshos from this generation actually came with a .11 engine. So .12, massive upgrade. Let's take a look on this side of the box. So it comes partially assembled. There were also kit versions available. This one was the close to, I guess you could call it in modern terms, almost ready to run. So here's a look at the swing arm suspension. We will take a look at it a little more. There's some more details on the other side of the box. So here's kind of a layout of the entire chassis. We have a muffler that is rear exit. The battery is mounted to the top. Interesting here, check that out. Rear axle ball diff included. Well, this has an actual ball diff, which was pretty rare for something like this. In fact, the RC10 GT and the XXXNT won races, and all they had were sickening ball diffs. Well, don't focus too much on this because we do have the real thing right there in the rear. I gotta say, man, this thing looks incredible. There were versions of the ATV body for the HPI Savage as well, but really nothing like kind of a small block, unique swing arm style chassis like this, because this in fact really is kind of a true ATV style design. Really not much different than like the modern rock racers. Guys, I haven't even taken the body off, and I'm a little excited. I hope you're excited. So if you appreciate this kind of rare vintage content, I go far, I go wide to bring you interesting, exciting, rarely seen nitro models like this one. Give this video a like. Check out the links I have in the description of this video. I support nitros, but don't get me wrong, I support really any RC. As long as you're a positive, ethical, and a moral individual, I appreciate you as a viewer. But for now, enough about talking about ethics, okay? This is a nitro. You know what the ethics of nitro are? You put fuel in the tank, you pull the starter, and you find an electric to try to smoke. Literally, because this thing has rear exhaust. So if you get in front of an electric, you will smoke whatever electric you want, okay? They might beat you because like these old vintage nitros, they're very, very slow, but you will certainly smoke them. Size-wise, quarter scale. Now keep in mind, ATVs are obviously much smaller than cars, so quarter scale really here in terms of car sizes, it's basically running the same style wheels as, let's say, a regular Nitro Stadium truck, like a Losi XXXNT type of thing. The magic here really is when you take off the rider. We'll discuss the body, the rider in a little bit. There are 3 body clips that hold this entire ATV body and rider on. Pretty easy access, I must say. You just lift it off, boom, there you go. The rider figure in itself is actually quite soft. You can squeeze parts of it. It is supposed to be painted, and you could tell over time the stickers here are beginning to peel. This was painted by somebody at some point. Not a terrible job, pretty good job, but of course this is old, the paint is cracking, it's fading. And the rider does hold the handlebars. The handlebars are not flexible. I saw online there are flexible versions of these handlebars, because obviously if you flip over, well, your rider is soft, so I guess really damage to a figurine like this is not important. But this plastic handlebar will definitely break off on you, so we don't want that happening. The bottom, the rider is attached with a body clip right there, and the handlebars just have 2 screws. So pretty simple. I must say, guys, actually the rider is quite heavy. This is, it seems like a rubberish figurine, right? So the head is movable. You can move the head, right? So when you're turning left, you look left. When you're turning right, you look right, you know? Low C Pro Moto MX, I don't even know if that guy's head turns. This guy, he turns around, he seems quite comfortable right there. Well, enough about the rider, just a little bit of a comedy there about the head turning. We all came here to check out this incredible, rare Kyosho chassis. Now, the main thing that sticks out is the rear swing arm suspension with this built-in chain drive. So they call this the super suspension system. Well, that is real super. On the side, basically mid chassis, is this 0.12 Kyosho pull start engine. The couple of online resources in terms of modifications I found, people did upgrade to an OS12 CV, but those cooling heads are a little bit taller. So if you do want to upgrade to a different engine with a taller head, you will have to accommodate and make a notch here in the chassis. Now the chassis is plastic. I'm hitting it here with my finger. It's definitely plastic. This is basically how a lot of older style RCs were built. They used an aluminum center plate to mount the engine, basically everything that is a hot component, and the rest was a plastic composite material, just like the Traxxas Nitro Sport. We have a chain guide right here. Now inside here we have a ball differential, and the rest of it is basically a solid axle. Let's check out the way that suspension system works. So here we have a rear super suspension system, which is basically just a monoshock, right? This cannot really go like that. The front, we have regular independent oil-filled shocks. Pretty great chassis setup, in fact. I don't notice any obvious signs of leakage. This is the very common Kyosho style fuel tank. If you've ever had one of these old Kyosho RCs, you would know these red fuel tank caps and a very user-friendly primer. Let me check whether we have any compression of any kind. Now this engine is not seized, and we have adequate compression. So I can't really lift the entire car like that, but these older engines, right, they weren't known to be compression kings. Now as I'm moving this, I could tell the rear ball diff is extremely tight. In fact, yeah, if I spin the axle, you do have pretty much super tightness there in the ball diff. But I guess given enough cornering, speed, acceleration, maybe proper road conditions, you will see a little bit of movement. The ball diff should be adjustable. Actually could need a little bit of a tune in the future. Let's take a look at this side of the Quad Rider. So on the top we have the battery housing for AA's. This rubber band is extremely old, so we'll just do that with it, right? We have a servo, the old AM receiver. Obviously I don't have the radio. We will have to use a FlySky GT5 system. Now this air filter, the original Kyosho air filter, looks completely destroyed. That foam, it's not going to be usable. I will have to get another filter, right? Single needle carburetor, very similar to the HPI systems. Check out the fuel cap. Okay, fuel cap could use a little bit of oiling there on the spring. It returns a little bit slow, but otherwise it's okay. Now check this out. This is how people used to coil up their antennas long ago. So let's say you had a giant antenna, you didn't want it sticking out. You would get a small piece of Lexan and coil it around, but really it's supposed to be on a larger surface area. This is actually a little bit too small in my opinion. Oh, check this out. Flexible little antenna tube. That's interesting. That must be part of the factory feature. Now, this model normally has an exposed spur gear, but it looks like somebody has made a piece of, it appears to be copper over here that's painted, the cover for the spur gear, basically just a plastic spur gear. This model does use pretty standard rear exhaust. There's the little pipe, not really any different than the older HPIs. Even the Super Nitros use these style can mufflers. So really pretty interesting chassis layout. Now I do notice this is the throttle's connection right here. It's very rusted. Now let me see, I'm gonna move this servo to see if the throttle on the carb opens. No, the throttle arm is completely rusted there on the carb. So most likely this engine will have to be removed. I might even make a completely new throttle arm cable, who knows. Let's take a look at the front, check out how much suspension travel it actually has. Okay, so the chassis does let itself bottom out there. Interesting. Not a bad idea to put a little bit of a load limiting fuel line right there in the bottom so it doesn't kind of bottom out there. But you know, these are like pretty small 0.12 size engines, really shouldn't be the end of the world. You're not going to be jumping these like crazy. Now, interesting, check that out. We got no foam in the tires. These are old style pneumatic tires. It was pretty normal not to have foam. You know, I do have a Kyosho from this generation time period, and to be honest with you, it's the world's slowest nitro. But listen, you're not trying to hit 8S X-Max speeds. What you're trying to do is get a sickening vintage Kyosho that will only go up in value. Now, the last time I checked on eBay, some of these are listed upwards of 500 bucks, and the really good condition one with boxes, they could go for 650 and up. That's because Kyosho it's investment grade nitro, guys. I truly believe that. Any other final thoughts? This is kind of just like a first look overview video. Obviously I cannot fire this up because the air filter is completely destroyed. The throttle arm on the carb is totally seized, and really would not be a bad idea to remove this engine, go over it, oil it up, make sure we have no leaks, replace this exhaust gasket. Now, you know what this is? This is where the rider's feet sit. Pretty interesting chassis setup, if you ask me. Now, personally, I would love a modern, savage ATV design like this. Kyosho, you know, kind of interesting. Looking at this long chain, Kyosho loves chains. They still make the USA 1 with a chain drive. You can't kill the chain, everybody. You cannot kill the chain. Question is, do we need to oil the chain? I don't know. Pretty interesting chassis setup. Well, guys, kind of a first look on this Kyosho Quad Rider. As I said, high probability nobody out there will get something this nice really ever again. Long ago, there was variety with Nitro RC. Today, everything is going, oh, let's make a 10 scale Arma. Okay, you know what? Next month, let's make that same Arma in an 8 scale. Oh, you know what? Month after that, let's make that like a fake 5th scale. But basically, all they're doing is they're adding more lipo cells to those Armas. With vintage nitros, they didn't do that. They didn't say, hey, let's take this, make this into like 50 different models and call it a day. No, this was the period of ingenuity, the period of marketing, the period of sickening nitros. Well, guys, this is going to be the end of this first preliminary video. I do want to say there will be a lot more featured on this soon, because Nitro World Order.
Nitro World Order.